Hey there! Thanks so much for tuning into my channel. My name is Alyssa Matesic, and I am a professional book editor. I've previously held editorial roles at two of the big five publishing houses, and I've worked closely with some of the industry's leading literary agents. I'm extremely passionate about helping aspiring authors achieve their publishing goals, and in my videos I offer tips on how to strengthen your manuscript as well as advice on how to get published. One of the biggest roadblocks to getting published is the dreaded rejection email response from literary agents. So if you're wondering why an agent may have rejected your book, you've come to the right place. I want to start today's video by giving you some background info and more details about my experience so you understand where I'm coming from with these explanations of why an agent may have rejected your book. As I mentioned, I've worked closely with several top-tier literary agents based in New York City who are behind some of the industry's biggest book deals and numerous New York Times bestsellers. My key responsibility was to manage their submissions inbox and provide the first review of author queries. As you can imagine, their inbox was consistently flooded with queries, sometimes reaching even 1,000 of unread submissions to review at any point in time. I would read through a query and determine whether it was worth sending on to the agent to consider or if it should be rejected. So it's safe to say I've evaluated hundreds and hundreds of query letters, and through my relationships with agents, I've come to a really strong understanding of what makes them accept or reject a book project. And I'll go ahead and reveal my first little secret, which is that it isn't all about the query letter, though that is a key component. It's worth talking a little bit more about the agent and author relationship so you understand their perspective and point of view when they're reviewing queries from potential clients. A really good analogy to use is to think about finding a literary agent like dating. The truth is that an agent isn't rejecting your book because they don't like you as a person or think you're a bad writer. So get that out of your head right now. Oftentimes there's nothing wrong with you or your project, but you're just not the right match. And the rejection might hurt, but you have to remember that there are plenty of other fish in the sea. And you will eventually find an agent who is the perfect fit for you, but it will likely take a long time to find that match. Again, just like dating. All too often, I see writers give up on their publishing dreams because they are discouraged from being ghosted or rejected by agents. And I totally get it. Rejection hurts, and frankly, it totally sucks. I can't deny that. But if your dream is to be traditionally published by a Big Five house, I really encourage you to push forward through those rejections. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The process of finding a literary agent could take years. But if being traditionally published is important to you, it's a journey you must be willing to take, and it will pay off. Understanding some of the reasons why agents reject your manuscript will help you refine your approach to the querying process and ultimately help you see more successful responses. So let's dive into the top 5 reasons that your book was rejected by an agent. First, a disclaimer. Some of these will be things completely in your control, and some of these things will be completely out of your control. I hope that helps you realize that often these rejections are not a reflection of the quality of your work, but just a reflection of the mismatch with the agent. You swiped right, but they didn't, and that's totally okay. The first reason is something that you do have complete control over, and it is something you can really easily fix. Agents will automatically reject a query if it comes across as unprofessional or if it's incorrectly formatted. While there is a general template that most queries should follow, each and every agent has their own specifications, and some have specific instructions that they want you to follow so they can sort through their submissions inbox. For instance, they might request that you use a specific subject line for your query, or that you include a specific number of sample pages. You need to follow these instructions to a T because if you don't, that signals to the agent that you haven't read through the guidelines on their website and are just blast mailing your query. And that is not a professional look. They want to know that you've done your research and took the time to properly format and submit the query. Something else you need to ensure is that your query letter comes across as professional. Be sure to have a friend or a trusted editor read through and proofread your letter. But beyond being typo-free, the tone of your query must also be professional. You don't want to sound boastful or egoistic, so refrain from suggesting things like you believe your book is the next greatest New York Times bestseller or that you're certain it's going to sell 50,000 copies. Be humble, be authentic, and be realistic. Don't feel the need to oversell yourself or your book. If you're working on a query letter right now, I recommend checking out my video on the top 5 elements of a successful query letter so you can check yours against those tips. The second reason an agent may reject your book is because the genre simply isn't in their area of interest. If you've been researching agents, you've likely realized that agents tend to have several different specialties. Agents have the freedom to work on whatever types of projects they enjoy, while editors at publishing houses tend to have more narrow specializations. So this means that you might find an agent who works on YA novels as well as some adult romance. The first thing you need to do before reaching out to an agent is ensure that they list your genre as one of their areas of interest. But even if they have listed your genre, that doesn't mean they're looking to take on more books in that genre right at this moment. For example, it could be that they have just signed several YA clients and they're really looking to build their adult romance list right now. These are things that you won't know going into the querying process, so it's unfortunately out of your control. But just realize that agents tend to be looking for different types of projects at different times in response to what clients they're currently working on, as well as what they're seeing publishers request, as well as overall trends in the publishing market. So despite what their bio says, your genre just might not be the right fit for them at this exact moment in time. One tip is to check the agent's Twitter feed to see if they've listed any specific manuscript wishlist requests recently. The third reason an agent might reject your book is because the plot synopsis you provide is uninteresting or underwhelming. When I work with clients on query letters, I spend the most time finessing the synopsis because it is the first impression of your book that you're giving to the agent. It's important to note that the plot synopsis should sound more like the copy on a book jacket rather than an entire SparkNotes summary of your book. Oftentimes, I see writers outlining each and every part of their book, and in some cases, even giving away the ending of a novel. That is a big no-no. The synopsis needs to be, above all else, intriguing. The goal is to pique the agent's interest so that they feel compelled to read the sample pages. If the synopsis doesn't sound exciting, how can you expect your agent to get excited about the book? It's critical that you outline your book's main hook. If you're writing a thriller, for instance, you need to give a hint of what the main point of tension or conflict is. One tip is to write out some rhetorical questions that your book explores that highlight the key point of suspense. For example, you could say something like, will John be able to find the killer, or will he discover the killer has been with him all along? You might end up removing these questions if they sound a little bit too cheesy in the query letter or don't flow well. But at least writing them down can help you get your wheels turning on what your book's intriguing angle is. At the same time, your synopsis needs to sound differentiated from every other book already out there in the genre. The agent needs to immediately understand what makes your book unique. For instance, your book could have a really unique setting, or it could feature a character with a really compelling backstory. Be sure to highlight that key differentiating factor in your plot synopsis, and you'll be in good shape to pique the agent's interest. The next reason agents may reject your book is if your writing isn't polished or up to par. For a writer to be considered by an agent and ultimately by a publisher, they must be able to write extremely well. I'm not just talking about grammar and spelling here, though those are important and can signal to the agent that you're not ready to be published. I'm also talking about your skill with crafting setting, or building authentic characters, or establishing tension and maintaining a steady pace. Your prose has to come off as thoughtfully crafted and intentional. Luckily, there are many avenues you can explore if you're looking to strengthen your writing. One great option is to sign up for a creative writing course or join an informal writers group where you workshop each other's pages. Having another person read and critique your work is absolutely critical to identifying your personal writing pitfalls. If you're looking to take the next step with a professional review of your novel, work with a book editor who specializes in your genre and knows what it takes to get a book accepted by an agent or a publisher. They will help you identify problem areas within your manuscript, and your editor will also be able to offer tips regarding your personal writing tics, such as if you overuse a specific phrase or if you format dialogue incorrectly. Ultimately, I do not recommend sending any queries to agents if you haven't had anyone read and critique your novel in its entirety. It is so critical to get that third-party feedback to uncover issues you may not be able to see in your own work, and listening to outside feedback will only strengthen your manuscript. The final reason that agents reject your book is also probably the most common reason. They're just simply not hooked by your sample pages. That is why it is absolutely critical that you nail the first 10 pages or first chapter of your book. Oftentimes I hear writers saying things like, the story really gets going halfway through, or the best chapter is later on in the manuscript. If you find yourself saying these things, it's time to take a really hard look at those first pages. They should ideally be the most intriguing, polished, and exciting pages of the entire novel or book. Because these are the pages that are going to determine if an agent wants to keep reading, or if an editor at a publishing house is going to keep reading, and if a reader who's purchased your book is going to keep reading, that makes it so critical to look at them with a close lens. If your beta readers or your editor are giving you constructive feedback on the opening pages, listen to them very carefully. There are a lot of pitfalls I see writers fall into when it comes to their opening pages, like introducing too many characters at once or not providing enough details regarding the setting. If you're looking to check your book against these common mistakes, check out my video on the top 5 mistakes writers make in their first 10 pages of their manuscript. After reading your sample pages, the agent should be on the edge of their seat, eager to devour the rest of the book. So if your pages aren't doing that for them, it's likely that they're going to reject it. My last point here is that it is very possible that one agent will find your sample pages intriguing and another just may not. It just comes down to personal taste. But if you're getting feedback from multiple people that those opening pages are not enticing enough, or if you have a personal sneaking suspicion that they aren't as strong as they can be, you need to revisit them. I hope these 5 reasons help you better understand why agents rejected your book and give you a fuller picture of how agents approach the query review process. Remember, querying is a marathon, not a sprint, and finding the perfect agent is like finding a romantic partner. It'll take time, but it'll be worth it in the end to find the right match. Let me know in the comments below where you're at on the querying journey. I would be happy to answer any questions you have about finding a literary agent or dealing with those dreaded query rejections. If you found this video helpful, please go ahead and hit that like button below, as well as check out the other videos on my channel. I have a lot of resources geared toward aspiring authors. I have videos on tips for strengthening your manuscript, as well as videos outlining the process that it takes to get traditionally published, if that is something that you're interested in. Thanks so much for watching, and happy writing!